Hi, everyone. Welcome back to live stream with me, Dr. Aparajita Jitagunta. And as you can tell, my dogs are sort of joining us for this live stream as well. So it's a family affair for this session. I am so excited because the family affair and the idea of like the overall community and all of that is exactly what our speaker for the C3EB Summit that I have on this session with me, Rachel Strivelli, specializes in. So I am super excited and so honored to be able to bring to you the person behind the expertise. Now, before we get into it with Rachel, I'm just going to read her bio. Rachel is the founder and CEO of Soul Pioneer. She's a writer, garden, and creativity coach. Plant seeds and pull weeds to reach your goals and have something to harvest. That's both a fact and a metaphor too. And that just gave me goosebumps. So we're definitely going to talk about that. Rachel has a master's in science in soil science, is a former school teacher and an environmental educator. She wants you to have more self-acceptance, creativity, and connectedness in your life. Oh, so beautiful. She helps people to uncover the creativity and resources that will get you where you want to go. By starting and taking consistent creative steps forward to reach your goals, she helps you to recognize the wisdom within you and the wisdom you can receive from the natural world through weekly emails, fun workbooks, online courses, and of course, coaching. Go to her website to download the free video series, Stop Dooming and Glooming About Life in 2020. Oh, I need that. Oh, I desperately need that. Get inspired and creative to drop the anxiety and overwhelm. www.soulpioneer or http://soulpioneer.com. And with that, it is my absolute honor to say hello to Rachel Strivelli, person extraordinaire that I had the most amazing conversations with so far. Hi, Rachel.
Hello, and hello, doggies.
I know. So my husband just got home, and that's what they're excited about.
And they're excited. They're like, good things are happening. Don't forget about me.
It's like, you've been gone for 10 years, even though it's been 10 minutes.
Yes. And it's funny. So I have a strong connection to the natural world. And for a lot of us, our first or our biggest connection to the natural world are the animals in our homes, you know, and they love us so much, and they also make us more lovable. I think it's actually proven being in nature or being around pets expands our empathy and things like that. So I like that they're making themselves a part of this today.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's a true fact that especially as a traumatic brain injury survivor, I had my emotional support animal, and then I have and she passed away, and I have my dogs. And the idea that they actually help enhance your immune system responses because of the joy and the love and the connection and all of that. I'm a living proof of that, that when I haven't had animals in my life, my conditions were so much tougher to manage. But with the animals, they actually become manageable, because it's almost a sense of, I have to be better for them. Because they know I can be better, and I deserve to give them that. They deserve to get that from me.
I love that. Yeah. And, you know, when you were talking, Dr. AJ, I was getting chills, which is one of the things when somebody says like a truth bomb or whatever, that something powerful, I feel it in my body of chills all over. And and you probably know people too, who either their time outside or their time with their pets, they feel like those beings know them better than anyone. We can be ourselves with them. We can be loved by them and understood. And so I feel like if we talk much more about pets, people are going to start scrolling like pet.
I know. They're going to be like, what is this about? You know, so let's get into it. You know, you and I have had conversations before, but of course our listeners haven't gotten that inside look. So just for their sake, for all of those viewers that are joining in live that we're extremely grateful for, but everybody watching later as well. So you have your master's in soil science. You looked at the equity of soil and the idea of, from what I remember, the nature of soil leading to better food options and plating options and all of that kind of stuff. And then you were also an educator and an environmental educator. What drives you to do all of this Gaia purpose stuff?
Yes, great question. And I should clarify that for those, and maybe it was true for you when you're getting your doctorate, the thing that I love, but also is a little bit tricky with a master's or a PhD, is you have to get so specific in one area. And so I actually, even though I studied soil science with very narrow focus, I was always trying to learn everything else because I thought, I don't want to just know this one little thing. I want to have a little broader perspective. And so the department I was in was called now I'm forgetting, land and food systems. So they were looking at not just soil as with like one purpose, but how does it affect our food systems, and how does that also impact things like culture and so many other elements. And so for so much of my life, or well, all my life that I remember, I care about people and I care about the planet. I care about living beings. I was raised a vegetarian, and even though I go in and out with being that now, it's still a value of mine that I think every expression of life is important, bless you, and valuable. And when I was a teacher, that came out with, I want to support the full potential, the full expression of my students. And I think everybody has gifts that are, your gifts are slightly different than mine. You know, we probably have areas of overlap and then areas that are incredibly different. And the more, I'm a little bit of an idealist, so I think the more we each can bring out our potential, the better our world is. And you know, then we can sing The Sound of Music or whatever song makes us feel like dancing out
right there. Yeah, absolutely. And so that deeply resonates with me, because you and I know, like, when we had our very first conversation where I invited you to be a speaker, which I felt like you were kind of surprised about in retrospect. And we'll get to that bit. But one of the things I know we connected about is how I was raised on farmlands in India. You know, and the idea of what you're talking about the soil, talking about the culture, talking about the lifestyle, talking, you know, like what we produce from the land says so much about us, and also says so much about our potential. And I feel like that's the part that people miss, is that potential and how much it speaks to the story of our potential.
Yes.
Yeah. So before we get into my next question, which, you know, actually let's table that, because I feel like that's, you know, that's going to be a teaser for what your talk's about. But so when I brought all of this to you, I remember you were like, I've never done anything like this before. And I'm like, do it. Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually come out and say it out loud. I was like trying to be very respectful, but in my mind, I'm like, come on, you know. So you always knew what I came to you with my vision of the summit and what I wanted to build with it, the interconnectedness, which is, you know, something you deeply focus on and everything. But what made you actually finally agree to grace us and to honor us with your expertise and contribution?
Yes. Well, so I knew all along it was an amazing idea. so that was not part of my hesitancy at all. And I really deeply believe, kind of back to this thing about potential, like the more that people can see connections, the more that we can focus on this positive way of thinking about how do we think about belonging and inclusion and equity, and what does that look like in all different facets of life, the more accessible it is for everybody to be involved. Because like, one of my core beliefs is that, yes, we have all these big problems of the world, and I don't even know why I'm doing quotation marks, because they're definitely problems. And yet we have a lot of people on the world. We have a lot of technology. And so when we work together, when we have conversations, when we hear new ideas that open our minds up, suddenly we start having more solutions, more ways of doing things and moving forward in a positive direction. And so I always believe, well, I want to be a part of that, rather than sitting around complaining, being miserable. That's no fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when I thought about, okay, can I add to the conversation and help let people see, here's one way that people can access and be active in creating belongingness, creating connection, and in a way that maybe really deeply connects with them, or is easy to do with your life that you already have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I know, and you probably hear this too sometimes, there's so many great things to be involved with, but we have time limitations, all of us. And so if we can find a way to incorporate it into what we're already doing and make either a lifestyle choice or a value shift that then whatever we're doing supports what it is that we're building, then it's so much easier than tacking on, 5 hours of volunteering once a week when we don't really have that time to do that.
Absolutely. And Berhenda just joined us. Hi, Berhenda.
Hi.
I'm so glad you joined us, Berhenda. And, yes, absolutely. Because one of the most exhilarating things for me personally that's come out of our recent everything that's happening, especially past COVID and everything. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I certainly have, at least in my news feeds, more and more people are going back towards that homestead lifestyle, that natural lifestyle. And then I'm starting to see these news reports about how African Americans are going back into farming and claiming what their ancestors were doing with the land and building these new co-ops and produce farms and all of these other things, which to me is, I'm not involved in the space, but it's still so empowering that people are stepping into their ancestry in a very, very decidedly modern way with modern technology. They're blending everything to express their ancestry, express their needs, and to meet their own needs instead of depending on other people. And I feel like that is such a critical part of this conversation, right? Is that at the end of the day, when we put this collective power together, we can meet our needs and meet each other's needs on a community level. We don't have to depend on the big brother, so to speak.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Praise hands all the way. Everything you just said, I'm like, maybe I should be interviewing you about this. I have seen that, and it has been so delightful, and it fills me with hope, and it fills me with so much enthusiasm. And I love that people all over, like you say, we're reclaiming and reconnecting to these ancestral things, but doing it in a new modern way that fits with our modern lifestyles. Because none of us, I don't believe, want to go back to subsistence farming in the way that we picture it happened so many 100 years ago, where it's super hard and
they didn't have indoor plumbing. I'm done.
Yeah.
They did, it was a hole in the ground. I'm already done.
And one of the things that I will be addressing a little bit in my presentation is, even if you're not somebody who says, oh, I'm going to get involved with the local co-op or go garden 2 hours a week with them. There are ways that you can still be informed about what's going on, supporting it, either by supporting it by buying the whatever produce or berries or, you know, food products they're creating, or engaging with it in other ways. And I really believe it's a long-term sustainable solution, because even though the agriculture system we've had has given us a lot of benefits, there have also been a lot of trade-offs or negative aspects to it that in the long run don't work out for people or the land or the ecosystems in general. Whereas most people who are working a land that they're interacting with on a regular basis, they want to care for that because they know that that's a part of their livelihood and their health and wellness too.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, there is something which I know Berhenda, especially as an empath coach and all of that, this is something that she's taught me. And so is Maggie Griffin, like the idea of using that soil and nature to ground yourself and to get that energy and to like recycle and process that energy going through you. They're really, you know, I came into this going, oh my God, what is this woo-woo stuff? As a data scientist. I mean, come on, I was a data scientist. So when I came into this space, I was like, what did I just get into? But it is real. Like it is something that I fundamentally felt a difference in my life when I just stepped outside of my skepticism. I'm still, you know, there's still skepticism. I just stopped judging it, is what it is. When I stepped outside the judgment of the skepticism and I said, I'm going to be open to learning everything that nature has to tell me. And then, you know, you post these beautiful images of like the Fibonacci sequence and like the fractals and everything, which for a math and data nerd like me, oh, like my heart just sings when you post those images, because I see the beauty of math and numbers in plants, in those, like some of those plants you've posted, oh my God, are the most exquisite things I've ever seen in their mathematical precision. And people are going to think I'm nuts for talking this way about plants. I know not you, but like, you know, when I look at plants, I see mathematical precision and I see order and I see structure and I see beauty in that. And I think there is so much of that kind of unexplored connection that we can benefit from.
Yes. And you know, oh my gosh, well, I love everything that you're saying. And it also makes me think about how in the ancient, well, it wasn't super ancient, but Islamic scientists and artists, they looked at this a lot. And it's like, historically speaking, instead of, you know, different cultures coming together and learning, it was this colonial, like, let's conquer you and burn your libraries. And, you know, hopefully humanity's done with that phase now. But sometimes in history, different cultures have really dove deep into that. And I think there's still so much room for us to dive deep into it moving forth and to find these things that we might not even realize are like gems of beauty and math right outside our door that we pass every day. And I think it's amazing. And it also can really, back to this whole like 2020, some people I know, and I have moments myself, and you may feel this way, of like, how many more crazy things can happen? How do I handle this? And there sometimes is a lot to take in. But like you were saying about, if we spend time doing things that ground us, that inspire us, that make us feel hope again, that make us see, wait a minute, here's an area of life, or my life, that still has good things going on, or there's potential for me to have moments of excitement and joy and new insight. I think it's super important for our own mental health and well-being to do that, because then we can, the ripple effect then of the people around us and our workplaces and all that, we can impact it there too. And also, as we start to see, so I believe that we are all, like all of the beings in the universe, we're all in this together. And so that's why it's important to be as respectful as possible to all of the creatures, human and non-human. And some of us, it's easy to do it with one species more than another. And if it's not so easy with one species, we'll start with another and work your way to the other ones. Right. You know, if it's easy with humans, start with them. If it's not easy with humans, start with another one and see if you can work your way around to that.
Get that cute kitty or puppy dog and work your way up. Which is, it's interesting. I feel like that's a whole debate, especially given all of the movements for social equity and justice that have happened in this country about, you know, there has been a lot of rhetoric about people care more about animals than they care about humans, you know, and which there is truth to that because of some of this is that it's coming out. But I feel like, you know, people are missing that point of the interconnectedness of, you can translate that to humans. You can translate that just as a dog is different from you. You know, like just as a plant is different from you, just as name something is different from you. There's still like, it's those learning moments. It's that embracing of the difference. It's that cherishing of the difference and realizing that it's the difference that makes it completely beautiful and unique and valuable for us to learn from and for us to grow from and for us to then get together and improve life from. So
and I'm so glad you brought that up too, because it also makes me think there are a lot of people hurting right now and who even though I feel like we both believe exciting things are happening, change is coming or change is here, it's still like there's a long way to go in a lot of ways. And so for each of us, I think having that time for self-care and doing what we need to attend to our own wellness so we can be present to those who we know who are hurting and who feel angry and impatient. And I mean, impatient isn't really the best way to put it, because it's been a lot, generations of patience in some ways, but but the outward expression of it can feel like impatience. And so you know, and as a white woman who wants to be involved in this, I have to always be reminding myself of, am I listening and being receptive and being supportive more than I'm speaking, you know? And so it's like, even though I'm speaking here, I'm really making a point. Did I put in the time to listen, to be quiet, to deal with whatever it is that I need to deal with for me, so I can show up the best that I can for the people in my life, for the people in my community, and move forward for this change. And so I feel like that's a little tangential, but
no, I think it's actually, you know, yes, it is. I mean, okay, yes, it is sort of tangential to this conversation, but not really, because this conversation is about the interconnectedness. You know, you speaking at a summit, the theme of which is the interconnectedness of equity and belongingness, the idea that inclusion is not a zero-sum game and neither are equity and belongingness. So I think this is actually very relevant, and I'm really glad that you brought it up, because I feel like, at least in my space, I do encounter a lot of this from white women who are not bad people in any sense of the word, but they do struggle with this concept of performative allyship versus intentional allyship. And I feel like you are at a better place because you've navigated that a little bit more, a little bit deeper, a little bit more intentionally, and I'm not gonna sit here and claim you have all the answers because I don't think any of us do. But what are some, before we get into our final question with your teaser about your talk, just on this tangent, I think it's very important to address how can white women who have benefited from the systemic structures, not of their own volition, but just because of the systemic structures, what are some, I don't know, benchmarks, markers, indications, whatever you want to call them, in terms of, I can't answer to this. I'm not a white woman. So I'm asking you, how can people that are intentional about this, who are white women, go about this and know they're on the right path?
Yes. So a few things come to mind. One of which I a little bit alluded to a moment ago, which is that when things come up that might trigger me that are in this space of this issue, I have learned over the last, I don't know, 5 or so years to really take the time to not respond and react, but to take enough time to reflect till I can see clearly, not from my emotional reaction place, but from what did the other person say or what was happening and how does that fit in and what is my role. And so, and I really feel like from my years as an educator, and then even when I wasn't in the classroom, I have always felt very strongly that from Hamlet, something's rotten in the state of Denmark. We're not in Denmark, but something's still rotten. And over time, I just kept on feeling like it's getting more rotten and we're not really fixing this. And I'm laughing because, I guess some days that's all you can do.
And we laugh or we cry, so we laugh.
Yeah. And so the people who I knew both directly or the values that I was raised with, I consistently have believed if I'm going to walk my walk and talk the talk, then I need to be making sure that I'm always doing the best to my ability to help out and to recognize what is my place in this. And what I think a lot of people are really starting to see now is that it's not, even though our society is built up of individuals who are taking individual action, the systemic and the collective things have this like steamrolling effect of keeping it going. And similar to the environmental movement, it doesn't matter how much I recycle, or even if I get everybody in my neighborhood to recycle, if there is a industry polluting the rivers in our area, we still have that problem. And our individual actions are helpful, but we also have to be looking at what are the other issues that are bigger than just my own individual actions. And so being comfortable, mature, responsible enough to say, I'm going to honestly look at what part do I play? When do things trigger me? When do I get emotional? And I don't remember if somebody directly told me you need to listen more, or if I just figured it out over time. And now I hear a lot of people will say you need to make sure that you're listening. And when I first started realizing that I needed to do that, I just followed as many people of color as I could on social media, because the region where I was living, there wasn't a large population that I could be interacting with on a day-to-day basis. And
so you found it online.
Yeah, so I found it online. It was super easy. I, on a very regular basis, started realizing there are all these unconscious beliefs I don't even realize, but when I see things passing through my feed and it's making me have these aha moments, I suddenly have to realize. And one of the biggest ones, several years ago, my husband and I, we lived in Vancouver, BC, and it's a very international city, and the
Great
university is too. And so in my department, soil science, there were, I would say it was at least 50-50 white, non-white. And so I had my one colleague that I shared an office with was from India. One of my colleagues was from China. One was from Iran. No, actually two from Iran, I think. And two Americans and two Canadians, I think. So I, just by being around them, I started hearing some of the internal monologue, and it was embarrassing, some of the thoughts I was having. And I realized, wait a minute, I was in a culture that only taught me certain things. And then when I met people of a different culture, all of a sudden I realized what I thought was reality was just me being cultured in a certain way and taught certain beliefs that were American but not global.
Right.
And so that opened up my eyes in many ways. And hearing back to the whole listening and being exposed to people of different either literal cultures or races or whatever way that you know that you need to grow with having better awareness of diversity and inclusion and belonging, making sure you're around people who can, even if it's not like you or other people I know spend your life being like, no, I'm going to go teach my white friends some stuff by just doing, but it just happens, the things that you post or the things that you share. And, you know, that systemically with the whole, when people live in neighborhoods where it's only the same people who look like you, who live in your same neighborhood, that's one of the biggest downsides, is you don't have that daily exposure to people who are different than you in some ways. But we're also so similar. And yet, if you only see what the media is portraying, you have a very limited view.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think media and certain other institutions as well, because these institutions have been kind of like made more grandiose in some ways than they should. But I think that's a perfect that's a perfect segue into our final question, which is, so how does all of this, in terms of what you're fed, what you ingest as information versus ingesting as food to plates, how does all of this relate to us learning and just doing better about thinking about what equity means to different populations, what belongingness means to different populations, and how we can do our part in the greater movement toward intentional inclusion. So just in terms of your talk, don't give away the whole thing, just a teaser. And for everybody watching, yes, it is going to be just a teaser, because I want you to come to the summit and watch the whole thing.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be just a teaser. So one of the things that you brought up earlier will be a question that I bring up again. I have a few little things to say. So what does nature have to teach us, or what is our time, like if we go spend time in nature? So if you have a garden, awesome. So over the next 2 weeks between now and when the summit comes up, when you're out there, you could ask yourself, what could Rachel possibly say about how gardening connects to equity and belongingness? Like, where is that connect? If you don't have a garden, maybe you want to start one. It's not too late. People do a fall garden. I actually have a online course about it. And it's also very easy to start. Seeds are pretty inexpensive. And even if that money is a issue, there are people who will give you free seeds and free plants. But whether or not you want to do a garden, we all have some way that we can interact with the natural world. And so when you are doing that, you can start asking yourself, how does the place where I live relate to equity, relate to belongingness? Because I will be sharing, some connections, but it's super important. And I know this from being an educator, to start asking yourself the question before I even enter into the conversation with you, if you want to have the biggest aha moments and big transformation, to start wondering what could it be? What is she going to say? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for everybody watching who doesn't already know this, that whole black thumb thing, yes, I have one. But at the same time, look at that gorgeous bamboo.
Yes, it does. I was noticing it before.
Right? I've paid attention to it. I talk to it.
Ooh.
She has a name.
Oh, I love that.
And there was something, I don't know what it was because I'm not a plant person. But there was something about, and I got this at Costco on sale for like, I don't know, $6 or.
Oh, wow.
Like something so ridiculous that I was like, are they joking right now? Let me scan it and see it. Oh my God, it's really $6. Okay. I mean, if I kill it, it's only $6. And then this was like almost, this was December of 2019. The plant was maybe this high. And look at where it is now. And it really just is by me giving it what it needs rather than assuming what it needs and giving it what I think it needs.
Oh yeah, see, I like, again, maybe you'll do the talk and I'll just insert some little teasers here and there.
No, but like I was put, you know, you have so much more insight, but like it was only after I spoke to you that very first time that I was like, there really is a connection, because if I can do that with a plant, you know, it doesn't matter who I am. Anybody who can do that with a plant or an animal or a rock or anything else. Giving that other living being what it needs, and you translate that to a human being and you give them what they need. You meet their needs where they need those needs met. You listen.
Yes.
And you understand what those needs are, and you support in the way they need you to, not in the way that you want to.
Yes. And, you know, that makes me think, too, one of the benefits of this summit that you're doing is how many of us have had real education in these topics. Like in many schools, it's just not the case. And, you know, I've done some trainings. I know people may have done other trainings, too. But the more you can delve into learning about these things, I feel like this is true adult education. And hopefully, you know, we're going to be incorporating this over the years into other levels of education too, because these are the big ideas that then we can apply to other areas of life.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many plans for the summit, but we can talk about that offline. It is growing to be so much greater than what I wanted it to be. And it's interesting that I'm talking to a garden and creativity coach about this. One of the quotes in my book is, the seeds that you plant and nourish in the way they need are the ones that have the chances of growing into forests. I'm paraphrasing that in a horrible way, but really it's about this, that what you give energy to is what's going to grow. And so this whole summit, you being a part of it, your talk, all of it really is about that idea of what we give life to is what's going to get life. So are we going to give life to the negativity? Are we going to give life to the weeds? Or are we going to give life to the plants that sustain life?
You're a sunflower in my life. Which I know is cheesy, but I'm a cheesy person sometimes.
Yeah. So, I love that. Thank you. And thank you so much for being here. I know we went way over our time, but this was just such an amazing conversation. Like I couldn't help myself. So thank you for giving me so much of your time, and for everybody who is tuning into this conversation, whether live or later. Rachel is a speaker in the upcoming C3EB Summit from August 26th to the 28th of 2020. You can get the information to get the entirety of the talk when you register for free at www.c3eb.com. So please make sure you register so we understand the interconnectedness of life between plants and people and people and people and all of the above. And I guarantee you Rachel's talk is absolutely phenomenal. Her topic is so relevant to everything that is happening in society right now. We hinted at it quite a few times without giving anything away. So I'm super proud of that. That's a tough thing to navigate, but we did it. So I hope whether you're joining in live or later, first of all, thank you for joining in. And I hope you register for this summit so that you can hear more from Rachel. And then if you need to, please check out Rachel's work at https://soulpioneer.com. Rachel Strivelli, writer, garden, and creativity coach, and just absolute person extraordinaire and speaker for the upcoming C3EB Summit. We will see you August 26th through the 28th so that you can hear her live and a lot of other speakers. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
All right.
Wonderful, AJ.
Thank you.